All right, so what we're working with today with that is absolute value. The first thing we need to know is what the absolute value is. And the technical definition for the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. And it's kind of on a number line. So one thing, the main thing you have to remember is that the absolute value is always positive. That's what most people remember. All right, so the absolute value of 8 is 8 tick marks away from 0, so it's 8. And the absolute value of negative 8 is also 8 tick marks away, so the distance is also 8. It doesn't matter if you go left, right, forward, or backwards, you're still walking or moving, so it's still a positive distance. One thing that you should recognize is that two numbers are going to give you the same answer. So I had a positive 8 that gave me an 8. But then I also had a negative 8 that gave me an 8. So two things will give you the same answer. When we work with equations, we have to kind of keep that in mind. And so here I have the absolute value of x is 3. Well, there's two things that can give you that. Oops. A positive 3 can give you that. And a negative 3 can give you that. Two things will give you the same answer. So we will always break it down where you have a positive answer and then you have a negative answer, because there's two things that will work. Over here on this one, what can I take the absolute value of to get a negative 5? Well, nothing, because absolute value is always positive. So whenever you have a problem like this, there's no number that you can plug in, and when you take the absolute value of it, you get a negative 5. So this is a no solution. When solving absolute value equations, there's several places people make common mistakes. And so I really want you to follow these steps because it'll make a huge difference and help you understand what's going on, okay? Step 1 is to get the absolute value, which is the bars, alone. Get that thing alone. So here's a couple examples. So if I have the absolute value of x plus 5 plus 3 equals 8, this thing I have to get rid of. So to get rid of it, I'm going to minus it. And that works because now my absolute value is alone. Here's another example. Change colors. If I have 3 times the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 9, this I have to get rid of. So I divide both sides by that. And now my absolute value is alone. That's what it means by alone. There's stuff inside. Inside's okay, but there's not a plus and there's not a times on the outside. That's the first step. The second step is to see, does your absolute value equal a positive? If it does, it keeps going. But if your absolute value equals a negative, you are done. This is a no solution problem. So if you ever get the absolute value to equal a negative, I'll put the bars there, the absolute value equals a negative, it's a no solution. So you'd be done. So again, you move everything on the outside, you check to see if it's a positive. If it's positive, then you break down your two equations to equal a positive number and then the negative number. One thing that I need you guys to realize is that what's inside here never changes. It stays the same. Even when you break it down, it stays the same right there. It doesn't change. What changes is the outside. And then the last thing you do is you just solve each equation. Okay, so again, step 1, get rid of the outside stuff. Step 2, check to see if it's positive. Step 3, if it's positive, break it down to 2 problems. And step 4, solve each equation. All right, so let's look at this one. Step 1 was to make sure there's nothing on the outside, and I have nothing on the outside. Step 2 is to make sure this is positive. This is positive. So since it's positive, I break it down. Now again, everything inside stays the same. It's the answer that changes. My first one is 2x plus 6 equals 10. My second one is 2x plus 6 equals negative 10. And so now I solve these problems. So I get 2x is 4, and I get x is 2. That is my first solution for number 1. And then I do the next one, and I get 2x is negative 16. Divide by 2 on both sides, so x is negative 8. Now, it's okay to have a negative here, because we've already said that there's going to be solutions. What you can't have is that cannot be negative. So if that's a negative, it's a no-go, you're done. All right, so let's look at number 2. For number 2, if you notice, I have something on the outside. I got to take care of that. Well, the way to get rid of a plus 8 is to minus 8. And so now I have the absolute value of x plus 5 equals negative 5. So my absolute value right here is alone. There's nothing on the outside. And on the outside, I have a negative number. That's the issue. You cannot have that, so we are done. This is a no solution problem because you're not allowed to have a negative number. All right, let's look at number 3. Number 3, there's more moving on the outside. So I have to get rid of my 2 and my 6. I get rid of my 6 first by adding 6. And I bring down my 2, I bring down my absolute value, and I bring down this. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2. Now this says 2 times that absolute value. You never distribute to absolute value. You get rid of the multiplying by dividing. So I'm going to divide by 2. And now I have x minus 4 is 1. So now I look to see, is my answer positive? And it is positive. And so now I'm able to break down into 2 problems. Now again, remember this stays the same. It's going to be x minus 4 equals a positive 1, and x minus 4 equals a negative 1. To get rid of a minus 4, I add. So I get x is 5. And then over here, to get rid of a minus 4, I also add. So I get 3. All right, last one. And again, first thing you have to do is you have to get rid of the outside stuff. And so the first thing I'm going to get rid of is this 5 by subtracting 5 on both sides. And so now I have the absolute value of 2x plus 1 over negative 3 equals negative 3. Now, if you notice, I kind of exaggerate my absolute values. There's many times that people make their absolute values small, and then it looks like another number. Now here we have a negative 3, so there's a chance it's going to be a no solution. But we can't tell until we get rid of this divide by negative 3. And the way you get rid of a divide by negative 3 is you multiply by both sides by negative 3. So I'm left with 2x plus 1. Oops, see, that one was too short. It almost looked like a 12. But now I have a positive 9. Since this is positive, I can break it down into 2 answers. A positive 9 answer, and then a negative 9 answer. And now we're just going to solve it. Minus 1, and so I get 2x is 8. And if I divide by 2, I get x is 4, so there's the first answer. And over here, I'm going to minus 1, and I get negative 10. And I divide by 2, and I get x is 5, negative 5. So I'm going to write that up here. I got a little messy. Okay, so again, the most important thing that you need to do is you need to follow the steps, and that's why they're written up here. First thing you need to do is get the absolute value alone. Second step, check to see if it's equal. If it's equal, then you break it down into 2 answers in step 3, and then you solve each equation.